and the rows are the knowledge dimension. And whenever this learning objective to fulfill, the teacher has to have all the grids to be properly filled. Then only the knowledge sharing is being 100% efficient. So if there is any blanks, so there is something lag in between the connectivity of the knowledge as well as the cognitive dimension. So all these grids which are in green color need to be properly filled so that the learning outcomes or the learning objective is fulfilled. So here, coming to this learning person is basically the knowledge from the knowledge dimension. It is the conceptual knowledge in the cognitive dimension, which is we are giving to the applied learning. So that is the basic objective which is required by the student to solve any of the problem in the learning person. So this is how it is being represented. So similarly, if we look into the instruction person, so the instruction person where we are trying to, it is depending upon the faculty or the teacher who tries to apply or provide some activity onto the students to solve any of the problems. In that case, the verbs that are being used by the teacher could be almost like determine, select, and use. So here, if you look into the green color grids where there is an activity 1. So this activity 1 is at the understand level of the conceptual knowledge. That is the activity 1. So activity 1 tells about to classify the type of a problem. What are the different, how we are able to classify the problem. That is the activity 1. We need to get so that the students can able to understand in a better. So what is the basic objective? Objective is always in the apply. Okay, between the conceptual knowledge and the. So coming to the activity 2. Activity 2 is to select the appropriate formula. So how the appropriate formula is being selected based upon the analyzed level. So selecting of the problem and how it can be properly applied. Okay, so that is also based upon the conceptual knowledge and the analysis. And coming to the activity 3. Activity 3 is based upon the procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge gives the information about what to do and how to do. So from what is the problem to how to solve the problem. That is the activity 3, where we want to properly implement the correct procedure to solve the problem. That is the activity 3, which comes under the procedural knowledge and in occurrence with the applied. So coming to the activity 4. Activity 4 is the metacognitive knowledge, from where it is already memorizing. And from the understand level, we are trying to reconnect what are the things that we have learned and how that is being suitable to calculate to solve any of the problem. So from the understanding level, we are trying to recollect, and from the metacognitive knowledge, we are trying to implement. So that is the activity 4. Coming to the activity 5, which is also implementing the metacognitive strategies, how it would be able to apply. So that is how we are trying to implement the activity 5. So based upon this knowledge, the teacher would be able to give the knowledge or share the knowledge to the students so that they can able to solve the problems in these areas. And similarly, the activity 6. Activity 6 tells about check the implementation procedures. So while evaluating, we need to come to the conclusion what are the formulas which we have considered is correct, whether we can able to apply those knowledge. So that is the procedural knowledge which is given for evaluating in the activity 6. So coming to the activity 7, It is the corrections of the solutions. If there is any corrections required, we need to come to the conclusion of the solution by based upon the conceptual knowledge. So these are the instruction persons. So based upon these instruction persons and the learning persons, we can apply the assessment persons. These assessment persons are where we are trying to apply for these different activities we have done. So there is a test 1A, test 1B for activity 1 and activity 2. So similarly, test 1C. So all these are the activities which gives the information about the procedural aspect. So test 2 gives the information about whether they are able to apply the correct procedure to solve the problem. So these are the different types of assessment persons where the teachers can apply onto the student. So similarly, the alignment person is also same as the assessment person, but we are trying to resolve the if it is a wrong procedure, then we can correct it. That is the alignment person. So we will see in detail about this alignment person. So this alignment person is very much required for every teacher because it will this assessment gives and it also indicates the high degree of alignment, whether we are correctly able to provide the information, the learning objectives are being fulfilled, the instructional objectives are fulfilled, or the assessment is being correctly done. All these are indicated with the alignment person. So this alignment should be of a high degree of alignment. So here, if we consider only an objective and the instruction, then the assessment will be a weak assessment. So to have a good assessment or the alignment, we need to have some assumptions. So what are those assumptions? Those assumptions should be a valid inferences on the statement of objective, whether we have given a correct objective and whether we are able to do the proper analysis of the instructions, activities and the examination of the assessment. These are the assumptions which are required for the alignment. So if these assumptions are correct, then it will enable us to differentiate if we are able to do a misclassification or is there any misalignment. Okay, so as I said, if individually acquiring those students who has reported or reviewed but arrived at the wrong solution, they have attempted and arrived at a wrong solution. Uh, the need for the teacher to help them to find the mistakes in their own work and find how to solve such type of a problems. So this alignment refers to the degree of a correspondence among the objectives, instructions, and the assessment. And sometimes, in the case of this alignment person, we will be providing some marks. Marks are being avoided, though the answer is not correct, but still we'll give some marks. Why? Because based upon these awarding points are based upon the problem solving process. So depending upon the process, how they are solving, though they have not arrived at the correct solution, but we'll still some marks is being allocated. That is a alignment problem. And there was not emphasized during the instructional activities, not given. So it's a tough marks. So that is what is the alignment person. it was not linked with any of the stated evaluation criteria to increase the overall alignment. So if the overall alignment is done, then this overall alignment can be properly done if the teacher makes a proper changes in the taxonomy itself, so that for the procedure we are providing 50% of this. So those types of corrections are the alignment. So coming to the complex type of questions. So in the complex questions, uh, where we need to apply both the knowledge dimension as well as the cognitive dimension, where the remember is always remember is always a factual knowledge, because it gives the discrete information of the knowledge, where you can able to remember and you can able to reconnect. So coming to the conceptual knowledge, this conceptual knowledge is based on the understanding level. So this factual and conceptual both belongs to the lower order levels of the cognitive process. So coming to the procedural knowledge is to the applied level. So and this create level. Create level is higher order thinking, where you need all these types of knowledge like a factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and the metacognitive knowledge. So all these are required to have the higher order processing or learning process as well as the teaching process. So let us see the few keywords that are used for the knowledge dimension in this two-dimensional process of assessment and learning. So here, this remember level. In this remember level, if we look into the factual knowledge, it is like giving the list of the components or so some list of items which are required. So that is comes under the factual knowledge. So recognize is another keyword which is used for the conceptual knowledge for remember. So similarly, recall is the procedural knowledge which is applied to the remember level. Similarly, identify is based upon the knowledge which is already in the memory, which is to identify, which is a remember level. Similarly, the summarize. Summarize is the factual knowledge which is for the understanding level. Classify is the conceptual knowledge which can be applied for the understanding. Clarify is the procedural knowledge which could be applied for the understanding. Predict is used for the metacognitive knowledge which could be applied at the understanding level. Similarly, the respond, uh, provide, carry out, use are the keywords which can be used at the applied level for different knowledge dimension. Similarly, for the analyze, for the evaluate, for the create. So these are the few keywords which can be used for the knowledge as well as the cognitive dimension for both the learning as well as for the teaching applications. So let us switch over to the complex questions. So here, in this complex questions, there is a factual question. Factual question is where the question which have only one correct answer and it is very good for checking the understanding level of the student. And it generally don't require the deeper discussion. Because just the keywords which is already learned will get recollected. So that is the factual person. And it may not be very much interesting to consider, because the keywords which will not have much interest on the students as well as the for them to learn and remember, like who, what, when, where, how, why. These are the questions where the learner truly knows about that topic, that particular topic. There could be some complex questions can also be in the factual person, which requires some outside research to the answer correctly. Because some questions will be asked, some keywords will be asked by the teachers, where the students have to give answers based upon the knowledge they have. That is like WHO. What is the full form of WHO? That is the knowledge where the students has to give that could be shared from the outside the research work. So it is not actually a content, but still they need to acquire some knowledge. So similarly, we can also test the learner's knowledge and improve their comprehension of the subject matter through repetition and recall. Continuously, we will be asking in the class. You know what is WHO, what is COVID, what is COVID. After 10 classes, again we will be trying to ask what is meant by that, so that they can able to recall based upon the number of times we repeated. So these are the factual questions. So these factual questions are the basic elements the students must know to get acquainted with the discipline or solve the problems in it. So need not be always, if they want to solve any of the problems, they should have some minimum knowledge about those. If say some electronics, they should have some electronics knowledge, uh, which is the factual knowledge which is required for the students, so that they can able to recollect and use it at the remembrance level. And the knowledge of the terminology and the knowledge of the specific details and the elements. Suppose like the technical vocabulary which is required for the students to learn and understand and remember. And similarly, the symbols are the sources of information, are the major natural resources. So some information they should be having a prior knowledge, like a prerequisite. Okay, based upon that, we'll be trying to give many more questions to them, asking, that is the complex questions. So coming to the conceptual question. Conceptual question is depends. It is a higher order question that requires a student to create an answer rather than simply to recall. Instead of recalling, it is not the remember and the understanding level, because the conceptual question is at the apply level. So where they could not able to just simply recollect the keywords and answer. They need to apply based upon that knowledge. They could be able to apply. So they need to identify what is known and what is unknown from the problem which we give. They need to identify, and then what are the things that are known and what are the things that are that are, if they want to solve what is x, they should know what is a and what is b. So a into b is equal to x. They should know the knowledge, and then only they will be able to answer. So these answers are based on the knowledge of the relevant concepts, and the students have to visualize a system and use it to reach a conclusion. They need to visualize, okay, if I want to solve x, so I need to have the information about a and b, then only a into b is x, that they should have to visualize the things. More than one acceptable answer in this conceptual person, there could be, need not be a single answer. If in a factual person there could be only one answer. So more than multiple answers could be corrected. Like if you take a JE mains, so there could be multiple answers which are correct. So those are the conceptual persons. It is not a factual person. Okay, if they write an MSET exam, only one correct answer, not all, not three or four answers are correct. Only one is the answer is correct. So that is the conceptual type of a person. Sorry, the factual type of a person. Coming to this conceptual person, like JE names, and there will be 3 to 4 correct answers, not a single correct answer. That is the conceptual person, where there are more than one acceptable answers, and the students explain an unfamiliar phenomenon. There could not be always not the familiar terms we apply. So based upon the knowledge they have, they can able to apply those knowledge, and it could be applicable for the unknown parameters. They should be able to identify. That is the conceptual reason. And students have to analyze the information to select the relevant data, and then they should be able to solve. Those are the conceptual lessons. So in a classroom, as occasions of learning as well as examinations for evaluation. So these conceptual questions can be applied even in a classroom or in the assessment in the examination. So we can test the transfer of knowledge to a new type of a situation. Need not always the same old things what we explain, the same answer, whatever we teach, the same they will be able to answer the question. Instead of that, we will be posing a new type of a situation, so that they would be able to, based upon the knowledge he has, he would be able to solve it. So that is the transfer of knowledge to a new situation. These are the conceptual type of persons. So where it use interrelationship among the basic elements within a larger structure, which enable them to function together. Okay, not like a discrete. So if A into B plus C. So they should know A, they should be know B, they should able to get acquire the C information from other information, and they should be able to solve it. Like that, they should have some interrelationship among these basic elements. Then they could be able to solve it. Like mu, epsilon, those are the values where they should be able to remember and use it to solve the solutions. So knowledge of classification and categories, and they should have the knowledge of principles and generalization, and they should also have the knowledge of theory, model, as well as the structure. All these belongs to the conceptual person. So coming to the procedural knowledge person. So in this procedural knowledge person, there could be a specific task, or there is a specific set of rules, or there should be some specific skills are required to come to the correct solution. So there could be a group of actions, or there could be a sequences of steps are required to come to the conclusion, or employed to reach a goal the student uses in this classroom. So those types of questions are called as a procedural knowledge question, where the student have to engage in the thought-provoking activities, so that he can, yes, if A and B is like this, then she should be like this. So that is the thought-provoking type of an activities need to be applied by the student. So those types of persons are thought procedural knowledge persons, where the goal attainment by what into an action through how is the process. So from what to how they need to reach it, so that they can attain the goal. Similarly, the students have to make the predictions, the estimations, the hypothesis, and design the ways to test that we need to have. That is the procedural. So then the procedural knowledge person, how to do something, the methods of inquiry, or the criteria for using the skills, or the algorithms, or the techniques, or the methods that can be used to solve any of the problems. So to solve some problems, there are few procedures which are fixed. So some procedures will be, we need to find the path how to solve that person. So those are the procedural. So it depends upon the knowledge of the subject, depending upon the specific skills and algorithms. So we should be aware of those algorithms and skills so that then only they could able to solve the problems. And there should be a knowledge of the subject, which is a specific technique and methods. And there should be a knowledge of the criteria for determining when to use these appropriate procedures. So all these comes under the knowledge, procedural knowledge person. So coming to the last person in the complex type, which is the metacognitive person. So in this metacognitive person, it is good for checking the understanding. What is the level of understanding? The cognitive skills, how much he is having the ability to learn and understand and remember. This don't generally lead to the deeper discussions. And it is not very interesting to consider. Because each and every individual will have their own cognitive levels and their own metacognitive strategies to implement and perform its own actions. So there could be a complicated process which requires outside research to answer correctly. So these metacognitive persons should have a knowledge of cognition in a general as well as their own one's own cognition, and they should have some strategic knowledge also. And this knowledge about this cognitive task, which include an appropriate contextual and conditional knowledge. It is the self knowledge. Based upon that, this knowledge stands of different tasks. Each and every individual will have their own way of methodology to ask the questions. So that depends upon each and every individual. It is a metacognitive person, their own method of solving it. So let us see one example of the Ohm's law. There is a very famous and each and everyone knows about this Ohm's law. So let us see in the Ohm's law. The students have the concept, the factual knowledge. It is a subject knowledge which is required by the students. So what is the factual knowledge? The factual knowledge is that the current, how we measure the current. Current is measured in amps, voltage is measured in volts, resistance is measured in ohms. So these are the knowledge which is called as a the factual knowledge. So if you want to solve any of the problems in the Ohm's law, we need to have the factual knowledge. The student should have the factual knowledge, and we can even ask a few questions on the factual knowledge. So coming to the procedural knowledge is the steps which are involved. By using these formulas, they can compute some numerical values. Some voltage is equal to current into resistance. We can try to apply a different to calculate the voltage, or to calculate the current, or to calculate the resistance. Depending upon the procedural knowledge type of a person, we can even give a number of numerical values to that and ask them to solve. So those are the procedural. So they know how to solve and how to apply, and the correct formula has to be applied to solve these solutions, come to the solutions. So coming to the conceptual knowledge, where Coming to the conceptual knowledge, we have given some electrical circuit, which is having some batteries, some wires, some bulbs, etc. We'll try to ask them to calculate the current. How is the voltage, whether it is increasing or decreasing, how is the current flow, whether increased or decreased. It totally depends upon the conceptual knowledge. Based upon this, to apply few problems. Few knowledge where the students can, based upon the knowledge, they can apply this formula to develop some questions can be asked. So, like to calculate the power, total power in our house. So, based upon the metacognitive knowledge, where all these are required. What are those? Factual knowledge is required, procedural knowledge is required, conceptual knowledge. All these things are required to solve and identify a new type of a innovative problems to solve it. So, based upon the metacognitive knowledge. So, like this, we could be able to apply and give the solutions. So, this is the two-dimensional taxonomy which we can be applied. So, for the simple Ohm's law, where they need to have the remembrance of the factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge is required in the remembrance level, as well as the understanding level, and they need to know how to apply the procedural knowledge, and they should analyze the conceptual knowledge, and they could be able to evaluate based upon the procedural knowledge and the metacognitive knowledge, and they should be able to create the concept knowledge, that is they can able to come up with a new novel ideas. So this is the Ohm's law. Based upon the Ohm's law, this is the two-dimensional learning and assessment technique. So, let us just recollect the significance of using these different types of knowledge. That is the factual knowledge, which is usually a thought process through a repetitive and the rehearsal. We can able to get the factual knowledge. And the conceptual knowledge is based upon the best taught through by using the positive and negative examples for the categories. Or the procedural knowledge we can be able to apply more effectively by applying the visual displays like flowcharts, etc., which are made available or which can be developed by the students, which will aid for the procedural knowledge. Coming to the metacognitive knowledge, it is often taught by means of a strategic, or it could be a self-regulatory, or it could develop over a lengthy period of time, usually more than a single course or the semester. The metacognitive knowledge is a slow process where even the first year persons, like comprehensive Viva, will be asking at the end in the final year. A few questions will ask that can be related even from the first year knowledge. So they should have the metacognitive knowledge that can be used to solve these questions which are being asked in the comprehensive Viva. So that like that, this is how the significance of the different types of knowledge can be applied. So all the materials, this Bloom's taxonomy actually was initiated by Benjamin Bloom. He is an educational psychologist. He has developed this Bloom's taxonomy in 1950. But David Thrackwall and Lauren Anderson has revised this Bloom's taxonomy in 1990, and they have written a book on the taxonomy for learning, teaching, and assessing, and a revision of this Bloom's taxonomy and published in 2001. The authors are this David Thrackwall and Lauren Anderson. This is the textbook which I have followed for my presentation. Thank you, all of you. If you have any doubts, then please. Any doubts, please? I have done with my session. Hope you all understood. Hope
Thank
we
you.
all recollect the things.
I request participants.
And use it in our teaching learning process. Yeah. From the participants, any doubts you have?
All the best.
Any questions from the participants? This is all you know, just recollecting all the things and refreshing it. Is what we have done for today.
Thank you, madam. It was a very good presentation, colorful, very well explained in detail. And I wish all of us, make an attempt to follow all that what you have told while framing our questions and while conducting our exams, mid exams or viva exams, whatever it is. So thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Can I stop my sharing, sir? Kasim, sir?
Madam, you can stop the screen sharing.
So I thank the management, the HOD Madam Sita Madam, and the management for and the Kasim sir also for giving me the opportunity to organize this event and taking a small step, making us to move forward in this perspective. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, madam. Participants, we can have small break. By 3:10, we can start the next session. But don't leave the Zoom.
Kasim sir, can I share the screen or after some time shall I share the screen?
Madam, we will wait till 3:10, madam.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Welcome back all the participants. So now we will listen to Dr. Mamata Madam on the topic performance assessment. Over to you, Mamata Madam. Madam, you are not audible. Please unmute yourself.
Sir, please enable my screen sharing, sir. It is not considering.
Yeah, now you can share, madam.
Yes. I hope all of you are able to see the screen. You're able to see the screen, sir? Yeah. Am I audible to you?
Yes, madam.
Okay. Good afternoon, all of you. I'm very happy to present a session on performance assessment as part of our FDP. And I'm in EC department, as all of you know, and working as professor, WDC coordinator, and EASHC chairperson. So today we are going to know something very interesting about performance assessment, requisites of performance assessment, characteristics of a performance task, how to design and assess performance task, samples, checklist, rubrics, types of rubrics, advantages of them, disadvantages of them, how to uh, score rubrics, and then how to write rubrics and convert rubrics into percentage grade, different levels of rubrics, and few examples. I hope this will help you really to assess a performance or a task. So let us know first of all what is performance. According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, performance means the execution of an action or something to be accomplished. It can be a deed, it can be a feat. Okay, so performance needs action. It may involve multiple facets of our talent. It may need our judgmental capacity, it may need our creativity, it may need some new idea, it may need some teamwork, it may need multiple aspects. So skills of such type like independent judgment, critical thinking, and different habits of our mind, how our behavior patterns changes, all decision making capability, all this can be assessed with the help of performance assessment. You know, when the student writes a regular exam, that is using paper and pen, we cannot test all these abilities there. Maybe cognitive you know talents or capability can be tested to certain extent. Judgmental capability and these type of things can be tested. But if you want to test a student in a very authentic way, definitely you need to ask the student to perform a task, and what type of task the students should perform. It is again based on the criteria what we need to consider, depending on the level in which the student is studying and the syllabus what is expected to learn. All these things keeping in mind, we have to give the task for the student to perform. So performance assessment, if you want to know the correct definition, what does it mean? It is the direct systematic observation of an actual pupil performance according to pre-established performance criteria. So this was given by the North Central Regional Educational Laboratory in 2001. So this performance assessment provides the teacher with information about how students understand, how students apply knowledge and skills in context. Why we use this word skills in context is because what a first year student is expected to know and what a second year student of our college is expected to know differs. And of course, what a final year student is expected to know differs. So when we do actually the performance assessment, we have to have all these boundaries concerned, and then we need to know how the student will be able to answer, or will be able to work upon a problem, how we will be able to come to a suitable solution, how we will be able to implement that, and how he'll be able to explain that using proper communication methods, and how he is able to even publish that. So these type of aspects we can really judge using this performance assessment. So our performance based assessment needs a very deep involvement of faculty. It's not just giving question, getting answer book, and then write some score and finish it off. No, it's not that. See, for example, yesterday our principal sir also used this example, and which I also had in mind. So it's a very good example where Dronacharya is asking his students to hit the bird eye using a bow and arrow. That was the task given to the students. The students, what they did, okay, they were ready with the bow and arrow, and they started trying to adjust, and then hit the bird's eye. But then he called one by one. So first chance was given to Yudhishthira, if I remember correctly. So he was asked the question, what do you see there? He said, oh, there are beautiful trees there, the scenery behind, and then you have a house far away, you can see the mountain, all these things he explains. And then he says, the guru says, keep your bow and go away. Then other person will be called, Duryodhana will be called and given the same task to be done. And again he asks, what do you see there? So this person, he also beautifully explains. When he explains, you can think, okay, he's using his language skill and all that, he's explaining what he's seeing. Yeah, that was right. But the guru was not satisfied. When again Arjuna is called, Arjuna aims at bird's eye, and meanwhile the guru will ask him, what do you see there? His answer is perfect answer. He says, I'm seeing the bird's eye, nothing else. So here Dronacharya understands this person's focusing ability is perfect, his concentration is perfect. Of course, if he given a chance, he is going to hit that most likely. So he decides among others, yeah. So Arjuna is the best. So here what do we understand? The criteria used for assessing the task is concentration and focusing ability, because everybody knows how to cast the bow and how to hit the arrow. That's not what Guru wanted to know here in this test. So he wanted to know how they are able to concentrate and focus, and how they are able to perform. So performance-based assessment requires an examinee to actually perform a task or activity rather than simply answering some questions referring to specific parts. And it generally requires students to perform different activities, different tasks. They may have to make a model out of clay, or make a model out of wood, or they may even make a painting or drawing, what they learn in first year BTech, or they may even make some module using a microcontroller, or they may develop a software using a GUI. They may connect that to an internet, and then they may send the messages to distant places. They can make so many, activities, but all that requires multiple skills. It's not just one skill. Even if you take a simple example of carpentry, the carpenter first takes the wood, he makes it clean, the surface cleaner, and then he polishes, I mean, after removing the scrap, he will polish that and makes the surface even, and then marks it. For marking, he needs to know measurements, and then he has to use a proper instrument, and then he has to sharpen the instruments, and then cut the thing as required and make a module out of it. Likewise, even a drawing or painting or whatever performance that is involving multiple skills, they have to be assessed also, considering multiple parameters. It's not just one parameter that we need to consider. Okay, so a performance assessment requires students to demonstrate that they have mastered specific skills and competencies by performing or producing something. So what are the characteristics of a performance task? Naturally, as we see, when a student has done some project or some experiment in the lab, or some he has made a module of his own or a painting or whatever, if we start questioning him, he has to tell multiple answers about it, right? He can't just answer in one sentence. So performance task has multiple outcomes. It is summation of all combined activities, combined skills that are required. So when a person takes up a performance task, he needs to solve a problem. See, when we were learning drawing, we had a professor. He was a very senior person, and whenever he comes for exam, the students will start crying. Why? Because he'll give real-time problems. He will give in sentences description of the design, the drawing, what we have to draw first, and then implement it on the metal chip by filing. So all this we have to do within 3 hours. So we need to be proficient in drawing. First of all, we need to understand the question. That means we need to know English also. Okay, we need to understand question. We need to write down proper drawing. We need to the sketch. We need to have measured values properly written over it, and then we need to visualize what is the product we need to develop, what is the metal shape that we need to develop. So after that only we can file the iron piece and get the model out of it. See, this was the criteria what he had in mind when he gave the task. So this helped us to solve the problem and then implement it. So a performance task also encourages critical thinking. What do we understand by critical thinking? Critical thinking is a questioning way of thinking. So every time if we ask some work to be done by a student, he or she should think how I can do this, and why not I can do this way, why not that way. Will I simplify this? Will I extend this work in a better way? Will I optimize this? No, that previous problem is wrong. So this critical thinking should be will be developed when a student performs a task. It encourages divergent thinking. So divergent thinking is, what are the different options? One same work can be done in multiple ways, right? So what are the different ways of implementing this project? So one way is to, in case of our electronics, we can implement it in circuit level, one or in a gate level, or in what higher level. So system level. So there are different ways of approaching and implementing a problem. So that all that can be influenced when we give a performance task, and it focuses on both product and process. So whenever a task is given, both product needs to be considered and the process involved need to be considered. So all these are involved in the implementation of a task. So it is really requiring lot of our capabilities to assess also. Why? Because the student is using so many skill sets of his to implement this task. Will you please mute all of you? Will you please mute yourselves? Yeah. So I hear some voice, background voice. Please mute yourself. Okay. In case of performance assessment, how do we do it? And when we assess the performance, what are its effects? We need to know, right? So generally, when students are doing this tasks, they develop independent thinking, independent learning, and they try to plan, they try to revise, and sum all these qualities in order to arrive at one particular solution. It may also involve, discussion, okay, along with the peers, and whatever they have already learned. Suppose if you are giving a coding task, a difficult coding task, they have to definitely use what earlier they have done, any assignments, build upon that. Okay, so prior experience also will be used, and peer interaction will really help them, because not all students will be of the same level, right? One student will know something more better way, another student will know something else in a better way. So when they discuss among themselves, knowledge sharing happens. So that can be achieved when we ask them to do a task, perform a task. So this is called collaborative learning. We have already learned in our previous FDPs that students learn more with their peer members. I used to do that in when I was in BTech. We used to do group study. So we used to sit in numbers or two numbers. Two of us study. I will study some portion and I will explain, and my friend, another person, she will study some portion and she will explain. So by which both of us will learn both the things in a little time. So this can happen when we give some tasks to the student. Otherwise, just if we give some simple questions, they will just, refer to some textbook or some notes, and then just write the answers and complete it. So when we think of planning assignments, we can give them small tasks to be done, which will encourage them to develop all their learning capabilities. So I encourage all of you to take up giving smaller tasks when we try to make the students learn. Okay, so it enables self-assessment and reflection. Whenever we are asking them to perform, the students will assess themselves. Why? Because when we are making everybody perform, each student sees the other student's response and also her or his own performance. Naturally, they themselves will compare and assess not only the performance, their own performance they can assess, they can also know how higher level they can reach. When other student is performing in a better way, they will try to reach that level. And when a task is given, the students can also have a reflection. Suppose based on some formula or some equation what they have learned, we ask them to do an experiment in the lab or by simulation. So what they will think, like, okay, if we give this kind of data, this is the response I'm getting. Why not if we change the data, this is happening. Why is this happening? This questioning will have come, because in amplifiers, if the signals given is smaller level, until the amplifiers reach saturation, the waveforms will come very nicely. If we go increasing the amplitudes, what will happen? The waveforms will get saturated. You will get a clipping. So the students, when the moment they see the clipping, they can understand, oh, something wrong. What is this? Why it is happening? Then they will question. So they will try to find out the answer. So it is because of the amplifier or the transistor reaching saturation level. They will come to an understanding. So they are learning the concept of the working of transistors. They are learning in a better way when they actually do the experiment. So whenever the students perform even lab experiments, we should make them do different options. Like, they may be if you are just asking what is given in the syllabus, the students will perform that in within few minutes or half an hour, and then sit down in the lab for 2.5 hours just chit chatting, because mobiles are not allowed in the classroom or lab. So, and we are giving what specific manuals. So to avoid that, what we should do as teachers, we need to give them more task. The question may be same, like working on amplifiers, but we need to give them more task. Find the input impedance, find the output impedance, find the bandwidth. What happens? What is the frequency at which the gain is equal to 1? What happens if you increase the input voltage? All this kind of different questions, multiple questions, if you ask, the students will try to implement and then reflect upon the answers or the situations, and then correct their activity. And then it becomes an interesting task for them also, because the moment they see something, some outcome from their product, from their experiment, from their running of a software, it gives them kind of satisfaction. That's why I may tell the students, you do some mistakes, you do the correction, and then you see the response, you'll feel more happy, rather than just running a given program or given solution. Giving solution and giving a program and running, asking them to run, it will not help them. So ask them to write, give them instructions how to approach a problem. Ask them to write a code, or then MATLAB code or whatever it is. Ask them to implement it, and then they will feel more happy when they run their own program, what they have written themselves. And that becomes more challenging, more meaningful, and the students learning will be more authentic, because learning is, as madam was telling, it involves multiple aspects like affective, what psychomotor, and then cognitive all these capabilities a student has to develop. So if he once comes out of our college, he is a full formed graduate, btech, means a full engineer. So he should develop all qualities. So he should be stable in his mental capability. He should be knowledgeable. He should be able to perform some activity, and he should be able to report that activity in a proper way. So all this are expected from a candidate or a student. So we should do that, all that in within 4 years. So how do we do that? We should plan. So performance assessment is really very important. Of course, it requires time, and the students also will take time to do the task. Now comes the question, how to design and assess a performance task. So we need to design a performance task. When we ask students to do some work, we need to have something in our mind. Okay, so what are the skills, specific skills that we are concentrating? What is that knowledge set what we are concentrating? Because I can't keep on testing in some other area what other faculty is involved. I can't do that. So I should know in my specific area, in my skill set, what I'm supposed to teach the student and expect the results from the student. I should frame my questions and I should frame my task to be given to the student, and the student should demonstrate implementing that problem or that task. Okay, so I should make a list, this, because it's not just one thing. So if a student performs some experiment or some project, there are multiple tasks, no? So you have to make a list, these things you have to do it and show me. Only then the student will understand, and then he or she will start working on it. So we have to also design the task, what they have to do, particular task, what they have to do, what exact work they have to do. Skill sets can be coding knowledge, or running some simulation, or implementing some codes onto microcontroller, or for civil and mechanical engineering, it will be different skill sets that are required. So skill sets within the domain knowledge you have to consider, and you have to frame a question relevant to that particular level to which the student is registered. And then students will be able to perform a task, because I cannot ask what task fourth year student can perform to second year student, definitely not. So it should be relevant. When we design a task, it should be relevant to the student's level also. And then third thing what you need to know is, you need to specifically inform the student what are the performance criteria that they are expected to fulfill. Okay, so that you can tell them, you'll be judging them on these bases. This is very important. That's why when we think of starting academic year, for especially for MTech students, when they start doing projects, in the beginning, the first day, orientation day, we have to tell them these are the things what we are expecting you from your project of this 1 year. So you should show this way the results. You should you write the report this way. You should work on these problems, similar problems, like that. We should give them an idea how to work, in which direction for them to work. So examples of performance. What are different performances? As I've shown this in picture, you can have oral presentation, project demonstration, science lab demonstration, hackathon competition, seminars. Of course, in extracurricular activities, you have enactment, drama, debate, musical recitals, tableaus, and so on. It's not just restricted to this. It can be anything more also. Of course, I have not included painting, all that, model making, whatever it is. All this come under performance, different performances. So from the syllabus point of view, we already have these seminars, project demonstrations, science lab demonstrations, and all that. Of course, as part of our co-curricular activities, we are also conducting hackathons and may encouraging the students to take part in it. See, whether they win or not, it is another thing, but we should encourage them to take part in hackathon competitions and different seminars, like in technical talks, and of course in the activities what other institutes or organizations time and then announce, the student should take part actively so that their authentic development takes place. So when a student performs music, his psychomotor abilities are displayed. She or he will be playing the instrument and then parallelly creating music, right? Similarly, if a person is dancing according to certain pattern, they have to dance. Not that freelance, the free one, what they usually do, not that type. Generally, Bharatanatyam or any other dance patterns have specific rules to be followed, and they have to emote well in that, show expressions, and show, they have to go along with the music. They cannot show some action for some music. No, that should be quite aligned with the music also. So there is a kind of association of multiple domains when they actually do the some task. So even in the laboratory, when they are doing multiple tasks are required for them to demonstrate. What is this checklist? We need to have checklist. So checklist is set of criteria teachers should provide to the students to make them understand how to fulfill all the requirements. So whenever um, the student is given a task, we should tell them you have to do all these things. Unless we tell them, they will not work on it. So a checklist is a tool of tasks to be accomplished. Have we given any checklist so far in our regular academics? Yes, we have given. Whenever a student submits a project report and all that, we tell them, okay, you should see that you have this front certificate, and then what list of the what chapters, and then abstract report, then maps, tables, bibliography, all this you should be there. Like that, we mention the list accordingly, they will submit. If we don't mention the list, they will not follow it. They will submit randomly. Okay, we should give some kind of template for them to follow. Then they will do it accordingly. So guiding is very important here. Even in case of laboratory experiments also, we give guidance in terms of how what and all should be enclosed in their lab records, right? How they should plot the graphs, how they should enclose it, how they should capture the photo of the output they have received, how they should take printout and all that. We should give them guidance. Otherwise, they will not learn, and they will not go and tell somebody else also in future. So whenever we try to assess, definitely the next thing what we think of is grading. So there are different ways of grading: bad, poor, average, good, excellent. So who should come in which category? All that should only depend on the way in which they perform. It should not be based on any kind of prejudice, of course. So if you are trying to judge performance tasks, you should go for rubrics, because for question answers, we can say 5 marks question, 10 marks question. If they have written that answer, give marks. Okay, they score some marks and go away. But in case of performance tasks, since they are all qualitative, you need to have some kind of rubrics. It will guide you how to assess, and also it will guide the students how to achieve excellence. Okay, so rubrics provide detailed explanation of what constitutes excellence throughout a subject. So according to John Larmer, editor-in-chief at Buck Institute for Education, teachers should have practice using rubric and help create it. They should involve students also to create rubrics, and they should give the rubrics to the students in the beginning itself, so that students know what is expected from them. Okay, that we can do. Even when I was handling technical seminar, I told the students, see, whenever you are presenting, we are going to look into all these parameters. So what are those? Like, you should look into some new topic, search, prepare slides, prepare in the form of points. You should have index, you should have introduction, whatever. Then you should have different slides, conclusion, then references, and all these things. So you should tell them what should be the different sections in the presentation, how to do the presentation. All these things you should give students in the beginning itself, so that they can get aligned to the expectation of the faculty or the examiners. Okay, so now in higher education, rubrics have become an important criteria uh, based on which the students performance are judged. So coming to types of rubrics, there are two different types of rubrics: holistic and analytic. Of course, there is, in analytic you have another type called weighted analytic type. So what is holistic? Holistic will tell based on overall overall process or product quality. Examiner or a judge will can tell, okay, this product or this performance is good or excellent, or this one. Just overall assessment. It doesn't involve much of dissecting different aspects of learning. No. For example, if you have watched American Idol competition, performer will come on the stage, and then he says, I'm going to perform a song, and he or she will sing. And then if it is good, if everybody claps, then the judges, if they are happy, they will say, oh, you have done a very good job, fine, we'll give a golden buzzer. Or if it is not of so good quality, they'll say, okay, you're doing good, well done, well done. They'll encourage and send them. That's it. So it's a holistic approach, just overall. In case of analytic rubric, the teacher scores separate individual parts of the product or performance, and then based on individual scores, you get the summative scores, and then you will decide how good is the project, how good is the performance. Okay. If you want to know in daily life example, if you think of Miss India competition and all that, there the though the priority is for good looks, they make them show their talents. What are the capabilities they have? They may have some kind of swimming, or even playing cricket, or any games they can play. What extracurricular activities they can perform, how they can display their national costume. So many aspects they will judge, and finally on the main question, they will decide who is the winner. The final question, the question may be simple for many of you, but that is different aspect. But based on the final question, they will decide who is the first, who is the second, third, and all that. So that here you come across weighted rubric. Okay, some aspect is given more importance than others. So if that is also analytic only, because all other marks will be counted, and the last one, whichever is very important, it will get more weightage, and then their performance will be graded accordingly. So rubrics are of basically two types, and analytic rubric involves more parameters, and the teacher really should work out to decide what should be the rubric, and what are the different levels that we need to have in each rubric, how to assign scores for each. All these are important. Why we need to go for rubrics? What are its advantages? So whenever you introduce rubrics, when you are judging a performance, you reduce the subjectivity. That means your judgment will be more objective. You can't be partial and all that, right? So if you are well impressed, if you have some kind of prejudice with respect to students, say if some naughty boy comes, if you are subjective, then you may give some less marks. But if a very regular student comes, you may give more marks. That kind of subjectivity will not be there. If you have rubrics, you what evaluate the student according to the given criteria, the set of rules or whatever we have framed, rubrics, that is called rubrics. If the student satisfies this, okay, he has done well, give him whatever. He may be a naughty student in the class, no, that is okay. But here, when he does the work according to the rubrics, well, give him more marks, judge him as excellent. So it gives a detailed feedback also. What do you mean by feedback? Here, whenever a student performs, we can always say, yes, there is you have done well in this so and so aspects, but you should improve in this aspects. Your presentation was okay, good, but still you can improve. You had not written these things in your presentation. You had not kept references. Your way of speaking was not that effective, like that. In a positive way, you can always give more feedback. Apart from the faculty giving feedback to the student themselves, when they judge, keeping rubrics in mind, they themselves mentally can know what is their level. So rubrics will help the students as well as the faculty to give proper constructive feedback to the student. And then rubrics stimulates the creation of shared information. So whenever they perform a task together, they need to share the information, and they have to make others learn something, learn from others. Likewise, a kind of collaboration will be there, and it stimulates them. Their minds will be stimulated when they are doing this type of activity. And reliability is introduced. Yes, my teacher is going to give marks according to this type of characteristics, or this type of performance expectations. So there will be some kind of reliability. I can expect somewhere around 80 if I've done well. Like that, if they have not done well, okay, they can understand, oh, I've not done so well, so I may get some around 50 or 60. So that gives reliability for judgment by the faculty. So what about understanding the expectations? Yeah, if the students have rubrics in the beginning itself, they can really understand what is expected from them and how to perform. Okay, the students can evaluate themselves, faculty can evaluate them, students. Okay, both the ways it can happen. So these are the advantages of rubrics. I hope many of us are already using, but there may be some people who don't use, or they may not be using to this extent what I'm trying to tell. So suppose if you are asked to judge technical seminars, so what if you give all 100 marks? Do you think students will be happy? No, the students will think, what the faculty doesn't know. He has given 100 marks. She has given 100 marks. Like that, they will put you down. So you approach whatever assessment you're doing in a proper, constructive way, so that the student also should know he or she is judged properly. So advantages, just now I told, all this are mentioned by different people in different places, that is in different publications. So one should give the rubrics at the beginning of the assignment, or while discussing the assignment with the students itself. Coming to disadvantages of rubrics. Do you think there are any disadvantages of rubrics? Yeah, of course. It is because you need to spend time to develop rubric, right? It involves some time. And then whoever is using it should be trained how to use it. So this kind of small disadvantages are there of rubrics. Okay, it's not major but small ones. Okay, coming to scoring rubric. Say whatever I told, rubrics describe only qualities of the task. So our grading system may be wanting us to put marks. Finally, in the marks card, they need to have marks. So we need to, convert a qualitative assessment into quantitative assessment. Okay. So how do we do that? We also have to develop some method for it. Okay. So a scoring rubric is defined as a scoring tool for qualitative rating of authentic or complex student work. So it includes criteria for rating important dimensions of performance as well as standards of attainment for those criteria. We definitely should say if the student has done this is way, he or she should get such and such marks, or he should be kept in this group, excellent group, good group, average group, like that. We should specify in the rubric. Okay, you can also specify the marks if you want it, or you can specify the grade levels. So just an example of scoring rubric is given here, wherein 4 different levels are given, and the student, a given student, has scored in 2 characteristics, level 3 marks or level 3 performance he has displayed, and in one he has displayed level 2 performance, and in one he has performed level 1. So if you want to find what is the grade of this, in old method, so what is the marks corresponding to each of this? Okay, and how many marks he scored, that way out of the total marks, how many he has scored. If you find out, in this case 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, 9, divided by total 4 levels, 4 criterias, so 16. 16 is the total mark. So percentage is shown as 56%. This is the old method. So here it's a little bit, kind of the lesser performance level is displayed here. Although he has, in 2 aspects he has scored level 3, he is being shown as just 56, below 60%. So if you want to improve this, see, it is all within your hand or within your level, how you should plan your rubric. So if you want to make it a better kind of analysis, what you can do is define each level with percentages. So if he has scored level 4 performance, consider it as 100%. If he has scored level 3 performance, consider it as 87%. Level 2 73%, level 4 60%. Add all that and divide by 4, you get the total percentage of this student. That comes around 77%. Okay, so 2 times 87 plus 1 times 73% plus 1 times 60%. Add all that, divide by 4, because 4 levels are there. So you get 77%, and this is better than the previous assessment, wherein the person was shown to have 56% grading. So here the same student will feel better scoring 77%, and he will try to perform even better way. That's all. Okay, what we can achieve. So correct way to convert a rubric score into a grade. This is just a kind of guide, that's all. Determine the number of levels and decide on each grading level the percentages. So if a student scores something above 90, can be considered as level 4. Like that, for each group, okay, you can indicate the level and then assign minimum and maximum passing grade. Suppose minimum is 60 and maximum is 100%. Then know all the middle ranges of each level and find out the overall percentage. In this example, what I have shown here, 87, 73, 73, 100. If a student has done this way, then the percentage what he or she will be getting is 83%. So it's just a kind of way to develop the percentages, numerical percentages, when you are evaluating the qualities using grading levels. This is another example what we have done. I mean, we have done means it's shown as an example, that's all. So here we have different levels. Exemplary is the highest level, proficient is the next level, developing is third level, emerging is fourth level. So each of these has definite marks associated with that. If the student is proficient in 2 of the things, he gets these marks, and if the student is developing the level, he gets 2 marks for this. And you can evaluate like how I told. And in the traditional method, he or she gets 83%. In the new method, he or she gets 90%. So that's a way you can convert a qualitative assessment into quantitative assessment here. Now comes the question, what is the procedure for designing the rubric? So each one of you, for your own courses, if you are teaching lab or project, all of you will be guiding the projects. So you need to know how to design the rubrics, right? So step-by-step procedure is listed here. And first of all, you need to involve brainstorming. What do you mean by brainstorming? Involve multiple people who may be teaching the same what subjects. Or suppose if I'm in ECE, I can involve more of ECE people, and I can try to find out what are the design rubrics I need to decide when I have to judge the technical seminar. So if 5 people are judging 5 sections, all of us can have the same kind of rubrics. So each one of us should be engaged in deciding the rubrics and come up with a best set of rubrics. Okay. So that type of activity is called brainstorming. And coming to elaboration, you decide on how many number of levels need to be there. Okay. And for each level, what is the what are the intermediate things you need to consider. So if I just have a presentation, if I say, okay, the technical quality of the presentation, and then the PPT, and then what do you say, the presentation, there will be 3 things what I will be considered, what I will be considering. But in between, again, you can have so many things. So that will be characteristics or the set of criteria. But performance levels means more levels. If you have more levels, you'll be judging them with more accuracy, right? So if you have only 4 levels, the distinctions will be little far away. If you have more than 4, say for example, like what we had, exemplary, proficient, excellent, good, average, below average, like that, you will have more divisions. You can assess the students in which level they are, how they should improve, from which level to which level they have to improve, have they done any progress. When you are conducting project reviews, you can have these rubrics, and always you can compare their performance. Naturally, when you see from the when you compare the first presentation to the final presentation, they would have improved quite a lot. That is because of we telling them according to the rubrics. So we should tell them, you are lacking in this aspect, you have to improve. Then they will improve, so their performance level will increase. Okay, when actually we decide the rubrics, we should implement that and we should test them on the students. Okay, we can know their uh, feedback, and we our feedback also we can get in, and then we can really decide whether we should go with this rubric or not. Not all rubrics will be of help, so we may have to remove some rubrics. We may we may include some new rubrics, things like that. We can do it. Okay, we'll see one by one. So as I told you, that you need to decide on different levels: first level, second level, third level, fourth level. So here fourth level, we are showing that which has more than required qualities. Third level is one which has just enough qualities, and the second is no, sorry, yes, but not so much, and that means it's below excellence. That is, you can say 60 to 70%, that level. So it is not acceptable, needs more improvement, comes in the fourth, that is in this last category. What are these criterion 1, criterion 2, criterion 3 tell us? It tells about what things we need to consider when we do the assessment. Rubrics, okay. Regarding if you are judging a project report, you can think of how they have framed the sentences, whether they have considered all the literature available when they did the literature survey, whether they have implemented the previous related work, whether they have improved the old work with a new idea or algorithm. All these things will become the criterions. Okay, so this example in detail we can think of. This example was given by our principal sir, Dr. Praveen, in our R&D group. So I have used that to show as an example, because there are other examples also in the net, and Professor Muthu Krishnan in NBA report, also in NBA presentation also, he has given some examples, and there are examples in the net also. But relevant to our college, our professor, our principal sir has made this. So here this is for project. Okay, sir has prepared for project, and he is showing this different characteristics, okay, and different levels. So what are the characteristics sir is mentioning here is kind of what type of problem they have chosen, what type of solution they are providing, how is their presentation, how is their documentation. These are the wider categories. And then in each of these, sir has made a list of parameters that faculty should look for: whether data has been collected, what is the quality of the data they have considered, whether there is teamwork among them, whether they have collaborated with other branches or other organizations. These are the parameters you have to consider in the first characteristic. Okay, and accordingly you can judge them. Okay, say here we have teamwork, which is best. Like if the student have all the students have distributed the work, and if all of them have done excellently, each contributing very good to the project, then you can give this level marks to that particular batch. If teamwork is satisfactory, few members have contributed and their performance is satisfactory, consider the second level. If the teamwork is not up to the mark. Maybe one student has done everything, the other students are just acting as if they have done. Okay, and then they are not able to show proper way the outputs, collaborating among themselves. Then you should say your marks will be
Hello,
less.
Anna.
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, please mute yourself. Okay. Coming to problem mapping. So, what are the recent works that they have looked into? Whether they have done any quality literature survey, whether they have just looked into some student papers or transaction papers. What type of literature survey they have done? How many papers they have looked into? Have they come to some kind of understanding from those papers? If they have done more references, looked into more references, then you can give them highest grade in that category. And then if they have looked into few papers, I mean more than one case, and then they have not looked into what is market demand in that particular area and all that, you give the second grade. If no case studies have been looked into, no market demand is there in that particular product, then you should tell the students you'll be getting less marks. Okay, likewise resource evaluation, whether they have looked into papers or experimental results from national and international resources, like you have MIT lab and all these labs where they will keep their results accessible for everybody. And several universities also, they keep their results of experiments which can be used by others. So whether they have looked into such a kind of resources, that if they have looked into such resources, you give them good grade in this category. And then if they have referred to only national resources, next grade. No resources they have looked into, no comparison, no what no reference of what is happening to this related work, then you consider the least grade for them. Okay, whenever they tell about it, they should also provide proper links. If they have provided proper links only, we can know that they have really looked into this type of what resources. So I think I will proceed little faster. I think most of the things I have covered. Next, coming to creativity, the solution, that is what is the output they have got it. So that is if creativity level is high, if it is a new product where they can file a patent, give them excellent marks, highest marks. Okay, and if they have defined if they have used well defined resources, you give highest marks. If they have achieved what they were planning by means of objective, you can give highest marks. If they have not achieved any of these fully completely, but they have done up okay partly, then you can consider the second grade. Yes, please mute yourself. Kasim sir, please look into it. So likewise, if they have not done any kind, I mean, if there is nothing new in the project, if they have not even having any clarity about the results, what they have got, grade them in the last. Likewise, presentation. All of you are very well knowing about this. I will not concentrate much on this. But whenever they do the presentation, there should be continuation of the topics. There should be link. Okay, they cannot talk about results in the first slide and literature survey in the last slide. No, there should be some kind of logic relation between the from the first slide to the last slide. Okay, and how they speak, what is their communication skill, have they divided the presentation properly, whether they are able to bring out all the things what they have to speak. in a lucid way. All this comes in the communication skill. So that also needs proper judgment. And comes documentation in the project. So if the documentation has good number of references of journals and repeated conferences, then give them highest marks in that category. If they have not covered all references, but okay, then go to the next level. If they have not referred any uh, transactions or good conferences or even any textbook, then they come under poor category. If they have just looked into some links, poor quality, you have to decide. Likewise, plagiarism checking also they need to do, and present turned in results based on which you can always judge if their similarity level is less, least, then they will be getting good marks, very good marks. Based on that, their marks also can be associated with that. And even the publications, if you come for MTech project, if they have very good publications, maybe in Scopus, or if it goes to SCI, give good marks, very good marks. Only some conference reduce the marks, that means the level will be changed. Then if they have not done any publication, or they have just gone to some kind of lower grade journal, then you give least marks. Likewise, you have guidelines. You have guidelines which you can follow when deciding, when you decide to evaluate the project. Okay, so this is about what our principal sir has given. And likewise, there are other rubrics available. And this again, this is for verbal communication and presentation skills, what the student should have, how you can do the comparison. Okay, this all these are there in the slides. I hope all of you are able to get an idea about how to judge. So slides also, when they make, if they just copy paste the paragraphs and without even changing anything, then their marks can be reduced. But if they write including point wise, and then including some diagrams what they have prepared, and graphics quality is good, and if then if their presentation is in line, all these things you can consider and give good marks. Okay, so report quality, I just told. The diagrams they should write on their own, on the references, the way in which they put the references should be of some standard. And then they should have some kind of a template followed. First introduction, then the first abstract introduction, and all the further chapters, conclusion, reference, these type of things they should have followed. That the English language should be good, and similarity index should be less, and diagram should be authentic, no grammatical errors, no spelling errors. If they are satisfied all this, highest marks. No, not much. There are some lapses, reduce the level marks. Then if it is very low grade, is not satisfying any of these criteria, give them the least marks. So you follow please all these things whenever you take up assessing a project or a seminar. So likewise, oral presentation, the person who is presenting should have proper body language. He should be clearly audible. He should have fluent way of expressing. His English should be good in the sense the grammar errors should be less, and he should not be just prolonging by extending one sentence to the other sentence, saying ah, ooh, like that. And even while standing, he should not be holding, clenching his hands and all that, looking at the walls. This type of things you should tell them in the beginning and keep them in the rubric, so that body language is also very important when the student performs in the presentations. So they should not have any distracting gestures, and the position, the way in which they do eye contact with the audience, all that matters. So you should be able to guide them to this extent to make them student develop very good presentation skill, because everywhere presentation skills are required. I think I have covered. I'm not able to change to the next slide. Yeah. So if you are doing research, what assessment, especially when it comes to MTech projects, you have to make sure that the students have looked into previous works, and they should be able to what compare different works and come to one conclusion what is lacking there. So critical thinking comes in picture there, and they should try to overcome that lack in their present work, and they have to justify whatever results they are getting. They have to justify, okay, why this result is coming this way, and how this result is going to improve certain applications, how it will affect the society. This type of what justification should happen to the they should do this justification in the conclusion in the reports. So if they do all these things, you can give them good marks, very good marks. If they have not done, if they have not compared their results with the previous related works, if they have not justified why they are getting this type of results, why this is very important, and why how it is useful to the general society, if they are not justified, then they are not acceptable, the projects. Okay, so even the this holds good even in the research also. I'm stuck here. Yeah. So final design, how it is improved, whether it is improved version of the previous design, whether the results are properly found out, whether the experiment has been carried out actually or not. All these things you can keep them in the rubrics, and you can evaluate accordingly whether the whatever algorithm they have followed, is it appropriate. Then is there any feasible alternative they are offering to the problem. These type of things you should consider in the what rubrics when you are deciding projects or research problems when they are implementing. So interpretation of the results is very important. Final output, what they are getting, is important. How they are using the results, what they are getting in the form of application. They should show application, especially BTech students. They have to show the results in some kind of product. Of course, MTech students also should do it. MTech students will be having more research oriented type of results, which they should justify properly. So teamwork, how they have coordinated, all these matters in any discussion of project assessment. I think I've covered most of the rubrics points, which you people can involve in framing the rubrics. I suggest all of you can what sit together, if not all, at least few group of people teaching or dealing with relevant topics can sit together and decide on rubrics, their levels and the marks associated with that, and judge the students in a better way and make the students to improve. Not only assessing, you should make them improve by giving suitable feedback, so that the students will finally come out as a better student. So the diamond, when it is originally found out in the earth, it will be just like any other stone, but when you polish and cut it according to your criteria, it will reflect more light, and it will be having best outcome, that is the best look and value. Likewise, we can create best students by guiding, evaluating, and making the students improve, and we can get the best quality students from our college. So I wish all of you will do that in future. And I have referred a few websites, and the paper by Van Helvard is educationist, and also presentations of Professor C.R. Muthukrishnan, who gave online program uh, which was organized by NBA. So I hope my presentation was useful to all of you, and I thank the management administration of Gokraju Rangaraju Institute of Technology, Engineering and Technology, and our ECE department HOD Dr. Shweta Madam, and coordinators of this FDP, Mr. Kasim and Mr. Sampath Krishna Reddy. I thank you all of you for giving this opportunity and helping me in conducting this FDP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Very informative and detailed presentation you have done. Thank you so much. I hope all the participants got benefited with the presentation and the points you have made. Thank you so much. To all now all the participants, please fill the feedback form. It is given in the chat box and also in the YouTube live chat box. You can fill it. Thank you all participants and Mamata madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.